Hello and welcome to this Digital Camera Magazine video tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at how to replicate the look and feel of velvia film. Now velvia was a firm favourite with landscape photographers, and this was due to its high colour saturation and its high definition. It's meant you got loads of detail, loads of sharpness, and you didn't get much noise within the picture. So we can replicate that look and feel with a digital image. So here we've got a picture taken in Las Vegas last year. And what we're going to do is increase the colour saturation of the blues and the reds just to really kick the image out, and then apply some sharpening so that we've got that velvia look and feel. So first thing we want to do is duplicate our background layer, and we can do that by right clicking on the background layer and selecting duplicate layer, and we're going to call this velvia. And now what we're going to do is just to increase some of the mid-tone contrast within the picture. And we can do this in Elements 5 and Element 6 using the Color Curves feature. If you're in Photoshop CS, again you can just use curves just to increase the mid-tone contrast. So if we go out to Enhance, Adjust Color, and Adjust Color Curves, and this will open up the Color Curves dialog window. And what we want to do is increase our mid-tones. So once dialog window opens, make sure you've got your advanced options drop down, and you can do that by just clicking the small arrow to the left of the advanced options. And the first thing we're going to do is just to increase that mid-tone contrast. So grab hold of the slider, just move it slightly over to the right hand side. With the color curves you do have to be quite subtle with your adjustments. Any over adjustments will result in a solarizing or polarizing effect, as we have here. So if I just reduce that back down, and what we're doing is just increasing that mid-tone contrast, so really kicking out some of that detail in the rock. If I just click on and off, and you'll see the result that that's having. It's also just helped lighten up a few of those shadows. If you want to, you can, if you've got really dark shadows, then you can just use just shadow slider just to lighten those shadows up a little bit. And likewise, if you've got any very bright shadows, then just reduce the shadow slider slightly. Again, be very careful with your adjustments, because if you go too far, it's very apparent in the final result. So when we're happy with that, just click OK, and we can just see the before and after result of that. And at the moment it doesn't really seem to have as much impact as the original picture, but as you start to apply the saturation to the sky and to the foreground, that'll make quite a bit of difference to the end result. Okay, next thing is we're going to start to selectively apply our saturation. So to do this we're going to use a HueSaturation adjustment layer, and we can do that in the Layers palette. Click the Adjustment Layers tab, go down to Hue and Saturation, and normally we just go in, adjust the saturation of the entire image, but what we want to do here is selectively increase different color properties and their saturation. So under Edit, put that back to 0, go to Reds first of all, and this is going to affect all of these areas here in the foreground. And we're going to increase that slider up to about 30, and we can just see how all of those colours have, or all of those reds have really started to kick out. If I just increase that a little bit more, we've really got that sort of warmth of the sun, or the low sun, hitting the red rock. So we've gone up to about 35 there. If I just click the preview on and off, and we can really see how that's enlivened the reds within the picture. If we go back to Edit and down to Blues, and we can now increase the blue saturation for the sky in exactly the same way. I'm actually taking that right up to 45, which is a little bit too much, and so I'll reduce that back down to about 40. There we've got a really nice vibrant blue sky. Now if you've got a landscape image, as you often will, which has got a lot of green in, for foliage and trees, then you'll want to adjust the greens as well. If you've got a few more subtle colours you want to boost, then you do have the options to adjust the yellows and cyans and magentas as well. We're working an RGB image, and just adjusting those three will generally get you the result that you're after. So now we'll just click OK, and we can see the difference that adjusting the HueSaturation has made. Then if we compare that adjustment's hue saturation with the original layer rather than the color curves layer, we can see the difference that that makes. So if I click back onto the background layer, you can see things are a little bit too dark. The shadows have gone a little bit too far, and we've got too much of a contrasty image, which doesn't really replicate the velvia film. If I click back onto our velvia layer, we can see we've still enriched those foreground colours. We could even push that red a little bit further, but we've got a much more realistic velvia style picture. Now, just to add that impact of sort of the high definition of velvia, we're going to use levels. So we're going to create an adjustment levels layer, and making sure we've got Alt held down, we're going to just check with the threshold clipping and just move in those highlight and shadow sliders just to pull in a bit more of that detail. I'm actually just going to clip that in slightly just to increase the contrast. Finally, we're just going to adjust our mid-tone slider just to really warm that image up. And what we're doing there is just increasing our shadow range compared with our highlight range. So if we just check preview on and off, just to check before and afters, I'll just increase the mid-tone slider a little bit more and click OK. And now we can see before and after the levels, we've still got a really good tonal range going on within the image, really enlivened the reds and the blues. And now what we need to do is just flatten the levels, hue saturation and the velvia layer down before we apply sharpening and finish the picture. Just go Control E or Apple E to flatten those layers down. And now what we need to do is zoom the image into 100%, and you can do this by going Control plus or Apple plus. And you can see when it's 100% down in the bottom left hand corner. Now hold down your space bar and left click on the image and find an area which you can check when you're using the sharpening. And now we go up to Enhance and Adjust Sharpness. Just drag that over there so we can see what's going on. Whenever you're doing sharpening, just make sure you're at 100%. What you want to do is sharpen it without pulling in too much grain, grading the image too much and getting that painterly effect. So here we've got an amount of 60%, radius of 1.5, and if we have a look we can actually see the sky starting to mottle a little bit, and we're getting a painter light effect on the rock face itself. So reduce the radius down to 0.7. And here we've got quite a nice sharpness. We're not actually degrading the sky too much, and we're getting quite a nice effect and result throughout the picture. So now if I click OK, that'll apply the sharpening to the picture. Zoom back out so we can see the picture in its entirety, and now we can just check our before and after, and you see how that's really just boosted and lifted the colours in the picture, and we've now got a velvia style shot.